What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. Today, Mark and I are going to do our first prospect report of the season. For you guys that are new here, about once a month, maybe twice a month, Mark and I are going to go through all of the Mets minor leaguers, top to bottom. Syracuse, all the way down to Port St. Lucie, and we're going to go through every single interesting thing that we've seen from the minor leaguers. But first, before we get into it, make sure you guys are following us on all our social media at Mets'd. If you guys are not, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. So if you're not, big black button down there. We're trying to get 10,000 subscribers as soon as we can. Otherwise, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and wherever you get your podcasts, wherever they're at. And I'm really excited to do our first prospect report of the season. This is the first year that we've been comfortable in the podcasting space. Now that we're with foul territory, where we can actually talk about prospects. The Mets did not allow us to talk about prospects, and we have so many notes right here. And we are so excited again to talk about maybe upwards of 30 different players, ranging Syracuse, Binghamton, Brooklyn, Port St. Lucie. It's really amazing. I can't wait to get it started. But Mark, where do you want to get this one started?
Yeah, I mean, I also want to preface too that I think you guys are going to see a lot more of this on the podcast too. It's not going to be like every week we're doing prospect reports. I think
once or twice a month.
Pretty out of control. But I think maybe once or twice a month when there's big news. Obviously, we're going to mention stuff, but it's cool now that we can do just simply prospect episodes as well. You guys used to love that stuff when we were able to do it, the prospect reports. So we're definitely bringing them back, and they get to be their own video too. Just in case you're not interested in that content, you can just stick with the regular New York Mets. But these are going to be guys that are on the team, and especially when we're starting in Syracuse, it's pitching. Pitching is the name of the game in Syracuse. There's not many actual prospects on the hitting side in Syracuse right now in AAA. There's some guys that are doing some interesting things, like you mentioned to me. Rowdy Jordan hit a ball 112. That's cool. It's cool to hit a ball really hard. But at the end of the day, we're talking about pitching, and of course, it has to start with Brandon Sproat. And the positive is that we've seen a little bit more at AAA. They've been playing longer, so we have more info and more data on these guys. And Brandon Sproat, way better in his second start after his first.
Yeah, we talked about his first start. That was against the Woo Sox, the Worcester Woo Sox, I think they are. The Worcester Woo Sox. Yeah. The Worcester Woo Sox, where he had struggles with some really good hitters in that lineup, like Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. But in his second start, that came last week, threw 4 innings, only gave up 1 hit, 1 run, but 2 walks, and then only 2 strikeouts. He's still not exactly missing tons of bats. There were only 7 swings and misses by Sproat in that game. He's especially not that good right now at putting the hitters away with 2 strikes. He was getting ahead in this one more so than he was in the past. But something else that's crazy with Sproat, something I can't even conceive, I guess at AAA is kind of happens, that he is getting platooned against, where he's facing these minor league lineups that are getting stacked and stacked and stacked with lefties. And we know that's going to be something that Sproat's going to deal with, especially when he gets up to the major league level at some point, hopefully this season, because he has become really just more of a sinker slider guy. And that's a recipe for success against right-handed batters, but one that he has struggled with a bit against left-handed batters. We heard last month on the podcast, Nick Pollock, pitcherless, comped him to Brandon Pfaadt, because Brandon Pfaadt now for a couple of years in the majors has struggled with that, with a really good sweeper, a really good 2-seamer sinker, but nothing against the lefties. But something cool that Sproat did in this start, and this was against the Rail Riders, which are the Yankees AAA team. So he probably did face 2 of the 4 best lineups in all of AAA baseball in his first 2 starts, which is, you don't think that Yankee line? It's still pretty good, that Yankee AAA lineup.
You've always had this weird hard on for the Yankees minor leagues, and they stink. I'm tired of the Yankees minor league has been great. They don't produce anybody. Enough of this.
I mean, Ben Rice looks pretty good right now. Talking about Yankees not producing anybody. Same with Austin Wells is not really hitting that well past that first cheap home run he got. But something cool from Sproat. He was much more comfortable in this start against a heavy left-handed lineup with changeups and 4-seamers. Also, before we do even go on, but we're talking about the AAA lineups. These are not often very good lineups. These are a lot of quadruple A types of holder hitters. So the fact that, again, the Red Sox think are by far the best. Same with the Norfolk Tides, the
Orioles. Yeah.
Besides that, it's kind of just a lot of slop and garbage, but a lot of guys who can take a professional at bat, which is kind of why this is a fun spot for Sproat to be kind of fine-tuning his stuff. But again, a lot more changeups. He threw 45 pitches to lefties in this start, which was almost 2/3 of all his pitches. Stacked lineup against lefties, really annoying. 10 of those 45 pitches were changeups. The command on it was still spotty. He threw some in the zone. I don't know if he was intending to throw the ones in the zone that he actually did, because some of them winds up middle, but it got 50% whiffs. It got some chases. He needs to get that changeup. That was a pitch that was supposed to kind of be an out pitch for him as he came through Florida and through the lower minors. He's kind of gone away from it now over the last year. He's kind of lost the feel for it a little bit more as he's progressed, but it's got that if he wants to get lefties out the next level, that's the pitch I know the Mets are looking at that I want to see develop for him. Also, his fastball shape isn't very good, but he was much more willing to throw this one in this start, high in the zone against left-handed batters. Still got up to 96, 97 in the cold, second start of the year. So hopefully that works up to 98, 99 by the time it warms up and he warms up. But this was a really nice step in the right direction for Sproat, someone that we need to take some steps in the right direction because we're going to need him at the major league level this season.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the Mets pitching so far has been pretty solid this year, so there's not as much urgency as maybe some people thought coming out of spring training for a guy like Brandon Sproat to be up at the major league level just yet. But yeah, I mean, like it's very difficult at times to judge because, like you said, these lineups are annoying and scrappy, but maybe that's also such a really good test for a guy like Brandon Sproat who had dominated every single level. And we have seen AAA has been a little bit of a learning curve for him. So it's good that he's figuring it out, trying to understand what's going on there. Like you said, that changeup is so vital to a guy like Brandon Sproat because if you can't get left-handed hitters out, it just completely nukes the ceiling of a guy like Brandon Sproat, who has been so good against right-handed batters. So I think that's something that the Mets probably are going to wait and see him and develop him, make sure there's no rush right now at all to get him to the major league level, and he will eventually be on this team, maybe even again in that kind of Max Kranicki role to start the year, maybe not as a starter, but maybe out in the bullpen, getting a couple innings at a time, Max Kranicki, Jose Budo type roles that we've seen with guys in the past. The guy that I obviously love for a while is Blade Tidwell. He's had 2 rough starts. The command is kind of all over the place after that first amazing start. This is the guy that I don't know why. I have no reason outside of my pure bias from loving him during the draft and loving him at University of Tennessee, where I just think at some point it's going to weirdly click for him. Maybe it's going to take a little while. The stuff in college was obviously very good, and we've seen at times the stuff has been very good in the minor league levels, but he just has a really, really, really hard time consistently giving good outings at the AAA level, consistently giving good outings at the AA level where the command is all over the place. So maybe, again, I think at the major league level, he might be better than we think. I'm still believing in my boy Blade Tidwell, but the consistency and the command issues are the thing that are really holding him back right now.
But I'll tell you this. I think right now for Tidwell, the stuff is as good as it's literally ever looked like since he's been inside the Mets organization. I think he's had some struggles with where he's going to find his arm slot, like what pitches he's going to use when, like kind of the pitcher he wants to be. But right now, to these first 3 starts at AAA, like the stuff, like he's positive stuff grades on all 5 of his pitches. Like the fastball's popping, upper 90s, 17, 19 inches of induced vertical break, which is kind of that like rising action you get at the top of the zone.
And we know that's big too because Lance Brozdowski, friend of the podcast, just put out a big video how the ball and the shapes of fastballs change drastically as you get up by level because they do use different baseballs and different seams and different stuff like that, which is nuts. Why are we not using the same baseball everywhere? It doesn't make any sense. But usually there is a huge drop off from guys going from AA to AAA. So for Blade to have these good numbers now at AAA, very encouraging.
The thing that's crazy with Blade, too, is that he is such a big guy. We've talked about in the past that he releases the ball very high. He's releasing the ball about 6.5 feet above the ground, and he's a huge guy, too. The fact that he's getting those IVB numbers from that high of a release point and he's missing bats and now focusing on that fastball more than he ever had in the past, the top of the zone, it could become one of these like really unique power fastballs in the league. Also, his sweeper is amazing. It's mid-80s, got 15 inches of horizontal break across the zone with some lift, which is kind of in the same mold as the Max Kranicki sweeper that's kind of swept through the Mets this year. And we're seeing like people be like, oh my God, that sweeper looks like a disgusting pitch. So it's crazy. Then he has a tight slider that has way more drop or depth than that sweeper that's also sitting in the mid-80s, 84, 86, up to 88 at times. He still has the sinker. He still has the changeup that he's working on, less consistent, but a good pitch. Like he just needs to really wrangle this stuff in. Like I'm thinking about Blade Tidwell right now as like an old Western, like rodeo guy where like he has a bucking bronco. Like he's got a crazy horse, but I know if he can ever get that thing together, he's going to be the fastest cowboy in all the land, where he kind of has the ceiling for Blade Tidwell. I've really oscillated over the years and where I think that ceiling is. But like right now, seeing the movement profile in these pitches at the AAA level, like I bet, especially also seeing the immaculate inning in spring training against major league hitters, like seeing him being able to put major league hitters down in that way, like I'm incredibly encouraged by what his major league ceiling looks like now compared to a year to even 2 years ago. Yeah, no,
I again, like his stuff in college was so electric and we saw him lose it at times, but it's nice to see that stuff is jumping back up again at the AAA level. I got a good feeling about Blade when he gets to the major leagues at some point. And I do think out of all the pitchers of the minors, I think he gets the first shot still.
I think so. I mean, well, it really depends like next 5 starts who's better.
I guess that's true, but yeah, that's just my take. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that because I mean, neither of them have really gotten great results. Sproat looks like he's more he's closer to getting the consistency that you can actually get like through 3-4 innings at the major league level. I think more so than Blade. But I mean, it really could be anybody at this point. It really just depends. It might depend like whose 5th day is the one that lines up with whoever next Met pitcher is to get injured. Last guy I want to talk about from Syracuse, like in a deep way, is Dom Hamill. He's been in the system forever. He's 6 months older than Juan Soto, which is crazy to think about. But
he's older?
Yeah, 6 months older.
Oh my God.
26 years old. But he had a nice little start, his first start in AAA on April 2nd. Then he got put on the minor league IL, which is frustrating, but 5 innings, 2 hits, no walks, which is big for Hamel. Worked really hard the last few years to improve that command. And he's like a true 6-pitch mix now, with even possibly a 7-pitch mix. I think he might have thrown a sinker or two that were mismarked on Savant. But the fastball still has a nasty slider. He has also a nasty sweeper that's a different shape than that slider. Curveball, cutter, changeup. He's got some stuff. Like, he could probably junk his way through like a couple major league innings here and there when he needs to.
FT fam, you gotta check out what Harry's brings to the table. And I hope that if you're listening to this, you check out the video version of this conversation at some point, because that razor, Eric Kratz, looks like it stands out for multiple reasons.
I mean, I'll take the cover off. All these blades, each one of them ridiculously sharp, meant for a nice smoothness here and up there.
German engineered blades made in their own factory. They stay sharp longer. Okay. You've got customizable delivery options. Harry stands out for the sharpness, for the pricing, for the variety. And you can get a 5-blade razor, a weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/Val. Get the edge on your shave with Harry's. Normally their trial set's $13 right now. You can get it for just $3 at harrys.com/Val. That's our exclusive FT link. harrys.com/Val for a $3 trial set.
Other guys I want to shout out, because I think they will be in the Major League bullpen sooner rather than later. Rio Garcia, someone I talked about in spring training from the Glob of Chaos. 22 inches of induced vertical break on his fastball, which is kind of nutty. Even if it's only 94 miles an hour, but with that shape, it plays really well top of the zone. And Tyler Zuber, he's awesome. He's funny on Twitter. If Mets fans have noticed him so far. He'll respond to you. He'll jump in the mentions. He's got 18 inches of horizontal movement, his sweeper, which is disgusting. So those are two guys who probably mix in this bullpen at some point this year that we should be keeping an eye on.
Yep, AAA, that covers it. Let's move on over to Binghamton now. The biggest things to talk about, again, are going to be on the pitching side. We just have more data, more sample size.
I think here might be the hitting side. Binghamton's got more exciting hitters than pitchers. Probably.
I don't know about that. Here's what I'll say. At least for the purpose of this episode, they're more exciting to talk about right now.
Yeah.
The hitters, Jett, today, we're recording this on Friday, April 11th. So he actually had like the best game of the season so far. A couple hits, a home run. He's been playing really well. But up until Friday, he had, I think, like 14, 15 plate appearances, close to 20, striking out around 50% of the time. Again, it's early. These things stabilize a lot further on in the season. 20 plate appearances is not good enough. But yeah, his first home run today, had a good time. Ryan Clifford, same thing. At the time of recording this, he had 14 plate appearances. Not any for any power, but you're seeing the 3 walks, 3 Ks. He's a 3 true outcome guy. And the last quick hitter I'll mention before we get going deeper into the pitching stuff, Nick Morabito. Again, he had another great game today on April 11th, which just is so funny for the purpose of this episode. But up before then, 14 plate appearances, 10 strikeouts. So that's a little concerning.
Is Reimer on this team too? Jacob Reimer? Or is he a Brooklyn guy?
I think he's in Brooklyn, but he hasn't done anything notable yet that's like been worthy of like talking about outside of just, I think he's like got a few hits here and there. So the hitting stuff is really weird as we get lower in the minors, because these guys just don't have a lot of plate appearances, don't have a lot of numbers to go off of. Brooklyn has more of the exciting hitting things to talk about. And same thing with Port St. Lucie.
Yeah, I got one here from, he's in Single A, so I guess we'll talk about Reimer also. But probably the two most exciting pitchers in the Mets system in terms of long-term ceiling are on this Binghamton team. That's Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong. They've had very different starts to their seasons. McLean has been incredible. If you guys saw the videos of McLean's first start on Twitter, that sweeper,
disgusting.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like, we talk about planet Earth right now, every single pitcher that throws a sweeper, top 10, top 15, he could go in the major leagues right now as a relief pitcher, just on the heels of that sweeper and a mid to high 90s fastball. I don't think he should, and I don't think he will. That's not me saying that I think the Mets should do that, because he still has a lot of development to do as a starter, figure out some more pitches, cutter, slider, all that stuff, but tighter slider than the sweeper. But 8 strikeouts in 4 innings with no walks in that first. 15 whiffs. I've seen that number going around Twitter, but AA, we don't have any hard data, so it's much harder to evaluate these guys compared to what we can see for the AAA guys and the low A St. Lucie guys. Tong struggled with command in his first start. He walked 5 and struck out 5 in 4 innings, but still he's 21 years old and pitching at AA, which is completely outrageous. And still, gut feeling, it feels like he is the trade guy. I feel like if the Mets do want to make a big move this year and acquire an ace at the deadline, Tong is the one, because the helium is crazy. He's weirdly close to the majors at 21 years old because he's in AA, but there's still like a long path for him developmentally to figure out some other pitches besides that fastball curveball. It's just, he's so interesting. He's such a fascinating pitcher, and it's been fun tracking his growth these last few years, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of these prospects that we're going to be mentioning, there's trade candidates everywhere. I don't necessarily think I don't think there's necessarily a prospect right now in the Mets system where you're like, you can't trade this guy. Mets have built a much better farm system than they had just even a few years ago. So they're headed in the right direction, but we still don't have like that generational prospect yet. So all these guys are also, I think, very open to being trade pieces for the right guys back.
Yeah, and it's fun that we're also getting to a point a few years into the David Stearns regime with Eric Yeager's running pitching development for the organization that we are seeing these pitchers get noticed by these national publications. Like we've seen guys like McLean, Sproat, of course, Jonah Tong, like sneak into these top 100 lists. Not even sneak, some of them being high up in these top 100 lists. We've seen Sproat in the top 30 on a lot of lists. Fangraphs, Baseball Prospectus, Baseball America. Very cool to see the respect they're getting. But one guy who I think is a big sleeper in the system, who I've heard some rumblings is someone the Mets are much higher on internally, also on this Binghamton staff, is Jack Wenninger. We mentioned how talented McLean and Jonah Tong are. Jack Wenninger actually got the opening day start for this Binghamton team. A little bit older, came as a college pitcher out of University of Illinois, so older than Tong, more starting experience than McLean, who just stopped being a two-way player last year. But through 2 starts, his 10 innings, 16 strikeouts, 3 walks, 1 run, 4 hits. Like that's something that's really, really good so far, results-wise. And a Binghamton level, AA, the Eastern League, that has some pretty good hitters scattered across that league. Some that are also college hitters with experience who are on the path to being very good Major League players. And we've highlighted Wenninger in the past as being a bit more of a wide arsenal guy. He's a changeup primary guy, not changeup primary guy, but that's his best off-speed secondary pitch. As a righty, if your changeup's your best secondary pitch, it's not usually the best thing, but he has done some work with a slider, and he's someone who's really flattened his approach angle with that fastball and got more life on that pitch sitting at the top of the zone. He's definitely a guy to watch this year. Someone who probably also gets a major league shot before Tong or McLean because he has a little bit more developed secondary off-speed stuff, more weapons against guys from both sides of the plate. So he's definitely the one that stuck out to me when going through the research for this episode.
I will say it's fun when like these guys like Jack Wenninger or even some dudes that are going to be mentioned in Brooklyn and Port St. Lucie, guys that we've highlighted just like, hey, when we do our draft episodes, like kind of cool things to watch and be like, oh my goodness, look at these guys go. Like, all right. That's like, and especially because you mentioned it, the David Stearns, Eric Yeager's, like the whole development, even Steve Cohen he pours a lot of money into this farm system. He's talked about it before. These are the best investments he makes every single year as an owner of a Major League Baseball team. The return on investment is crazy with these guys. And you're starting to see it pay off. Like Jack Wenninger was drafted in what round? Do you remember what round Wenninger was? But he was a later pick, wasn't he?
I think he was like 8th or 9th. But again, out of University of Illinois, the Big Ten's not exactly a baseball hotbed.
He was a 6th round pick. Yeah. So like being able to get value out of like 6th round picks, 5th round picks, like anything past like those top 200 picks in a draft, like, oh my goodness. Okay. You're starting to really have some serious development go on.
And think about what was the sinker baller, Tyler Stewart, we traded last year at the deadline
for Jesse Winker.
Like that's a possible major league back end starter, but Jesse Winker was incredible for us in a playoff run. Like we don't go as far as we do if we're not able to get Jesse Winker. So it's amazing seeing these guys get developed, amazing seeing that they actually have put themselves in position to be major league pitchers at some point, but also cool just knowing that having this organizational depth. We're going to see this Mets farm system now with the amazing depth, and we're going to show you guys about depth because we have a lot of notes on Brooklyn, St. Lucie specifically, probably the beefiest sections we have in this episode. I'm excited to share them, but knowing that we have these guys coming through the lower minors, like you can make those depth trades like that to plug a hole to major league level and not really feel bad about losing a guy that you're going to be missing because there's 4 of them to replace them, the next level below them. That'll be up there, up a level above by the next year, even if not later in the season we're playing.
Yeah, no, I think the Mets are doing a lot of really good things at the minor league level. Now let's talk about Brooklyn because this is where
some bats down there.
This is where we got some bats down here and we've got some stuff on them. So we've talked about this guy before on the podcast, Chris Suero. Mentioned him, I think last year during one of the prospect reports in a very small sample. He had like a crazy hot week. He's off to a great start again. He's out in Brooklyn. He's 21 years old. He's a catcher, infielder, outfielder. They're trying to find a place because the bat seems to be pretty legit for a guy like Chris Suero. So far in 22 plate appearances, hitting .381, 2 homers, 4 doubles, 8 RBIs. Striking out a ton, 9 strikeouts and only 1 walk. He's a guy that definitely goes up there and takes war hacks. He's from New York. He's a kid from the Bronx, which is also really cool. I think one thing that stuck out to me just as like a random fact and something that I like to see from the outside perspective too sometimes, he played in the Lidom this past winter. He was the 5th pick by the Águilas de Cigüeños in the Lidom in the rookie draft. That feels like a pretty big deal for a guy who's not really a highly touted prospect in like the national circle. Is like a team in the Dominicans, like this Chris Suero kid, we're going to have him. He was by far the youngest player on his team, the youngest hitter. He was the youngest hitter on that roster by about two years. And he also, just funny fact, played with Juan Lagares, Jonathan Villar, and Alex Canario this season on the Aguillas. So like, I think when you see these guys getting picked in the lead on, when you see these guys hitting as well as there is, there's something there that at least makes me think this guy's a baseball player and someone you want to keep an eye out for.
Especially when someone, again, is getting that kind of appeal that you're talking about in those winter leagues. And it's just also nice that it's just more baseball to be played. Like the fact that these guys are getting more reps, more at bats against, because there are some professional pitchers that'll make it to that league, if not guys that have been retired for only a year or two. So it's cool to see people contributing at that level. But that's fun on us. What other hitters down there should we be excited about?
FT fam, Arena Club is the modern way to collect cards or buy or sell or trade or even grade. And we're highlighting slab packs because this is the new way to rip open a pack, get a really good card, AJ. But also, if you're not into the card, like I know you pulled a Bob Gibson card recently, you can get an offer of 90% of the estimated value and just accept it on the spot and give it right back and maybe try again with another slab pack.
I ain't getting rid of my Bob Gibson autograph card. Bob Gibson ain't signing cards anytime soon, so I'm keeping this one. It gets graded for you. There's no mess. The only thing I wish they had bubble gum. Can they virtually send me some bubble gum, Scott? Other than that, it's awesome. You can buy, sell cards. They grade them instantly for you. And physically, you can also get the cards if you want them. So I'm all for this. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, those cards are in your showroom in the app. And then, of course, you can get the card physically sent to you. So right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/FOUL. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
We got Eli Serrano III, which
that's the one.
He's the guy. He's 22 years old, came out of NC State 2 years ago. I believe the Mets drafted him out of the draft.
Yeah,
or was it
last year, 2 years ago? He also played high school ball with Ryan Clifford, right?
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, he's a good ball player out of NC State. It's a powerhouse for baseball. He's hitting 381 in 28 plate appearances this year. And in my notes, I put this dude might actually have some sauce. I mean, he was a guy who, in the draft, a lot of people were like, that was a really good pick where the Mets got a guy like Eli Serrano. He's a great athlete, has a really nice left-handed swing. He's already hit, big, strong dude. He plays the outfield. He's athletic. He's already hit 2 home runs and a double, 3 stolen bases. His walk to strikeout ratio is about 1-to-1, and it's not a small amount. It's 7 walks to 8 strikeouts. He seems like a player that's just like someone where it's like, this could be a very capable major leaguer if the development continues moving forward. Someone who played big-time college baseball, someone who played big-time high school baseball, like you said, with Ryan Clifford at a powerhouse at down south playing baseball. Like, these are things that I like that the Mets were targeting because, again, the athleticism, the swing, everything you see from a guy like Eli Serrano, who we also saw a little bit of in spring training, he's got some sauce, I think, for sure.
He's someone that I know the Mets were kind of in on the tools they saw in the draft. There was kind of a situation where I think it was get some lift and get some pull out of him. I lost on that swing. And we've talked about a lot in the past, especially with Ryan Clifford, about how difficult it is for left-handed hitters to play in Brooklyn because that stadium is on the beach, right field. You can see the sand and the wind is whipping in from there all the time. We saw Joe DeMayo talk about that too during the prospect breakout game this past spring. And Eli Serrano, I believe, he's already hit 2 home runs, pull home runs out to right field in Brooklyn, which is a huge thing.
One of them was technically pulled because it was on the right half of the field, but he hits like right center field where you're like, whoa, like that's legit pop out there.
So, I mean, again, we know that how difficult it is. The one guy who was really able to cut through, the right field in Brooklyn was Michael Conforto. And then he kind of went nuclear as a prospect after that and was fantastic when he got to the majors. Of course, Michael Conforto had a very nice run with the Mets, having a nice run with the Dodgers right now. So being able to see the left-handed power hitters still show the power down there, because even his high school teammate Ryan Clifford had trouble showing the power down there. And this power is nutty. Like, we've seen his power for the last couple of years developing. It's very, very cool to see him be able to do that early. And that's someone that I almost say if you pull anything out of this episode for a hitter to be excited about, to change your mind on, not even change your mind, but just be aware of, know this, it's Eli Serrano. I picked him up in my first Dynasty League this past week when I saw that home run.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, like the Mets outfield depth is definitely weak. So he's a guy who could also move up to AA, I think, quickly if he plays well at high A Brooklyn this year. Other 2 guys to mention quickly. Boston Barrow got his first home run of the season the other day.
Hell yeah.
Again, not going to really focus on his power numbers too much out in Brooklyn because he is another left-handed hitter. The thing that's been surprising to me, though, yes, I said that. You heard me.
I'm saying, yeah.
10 strikeouts, 29 plate appearances. So that's kind of crazy because he's not a guy who I see as a strikeout type hitter, but something's going on where he's striking out a lot. And then Carson Benj as well, 5 walks, 4 Ks, and 17 plate appearances. Found it interesting. He's got way less plate appearances than some of the other outfielders, so that was confusing to me.
Maybe he missed a day with an injury too, something like that. Because the minor league injury reporting is scarce. You really will never know anything that's actually going on down there with those guys' health. But it's cool to see that they have bench Barrow and Serrano, because I think they probably are the three most exciting hitting prospects, along with Jesus Baez, when he actually gets back to health and gets back up with them or Binghamton very soon. So it's cool to see them all together. We talk about a lot the idea of like these minor leaguers growing up together, spending a lot of time together. Like we even see at the major league level right now, like how close. I know it hasn't been great at times, but like how close guys like Vientos, Beatty, and Francisco Alvarez are, because of how long they've been playing together and how well they know each other. Like going through those trials and tribulations together as young men in these systems is cool for the camaraderie at the major league level. Two pitchers I really want to highlight at Brooklyn too. One is very notable one. One is someone that paying attention to, noticing. First, Jonathan Santucci. Second round pick last year in the draft, someone that the data loved out of Duke. Our guy Lance Brysdowski liked him. So a lot of very sharp people being fans of this pick by the Mets. Brooklyn debut went really well. 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, no walks. The no walks is really, really cool for Santucci because he really struggled with walks and command in his career at Duke. Over a 14% walk rate last season as a junior, which is very high for any pitcher. That came with almost a 40% strikeout rate. Also really cool with Santucci, the Mets seeing how advanced he is as a pitcher. Just totally skipping St. Lucie, straight to Brooklyn out of the draft. That's a very good sign, I think, developmentally for the Mets to kind of throw him into that fire. Some really nasty slider videos made it to Twitter. A lot of depth on those. He was throwing against righties and lefties. He's another guy, as a lefty, needs to find that changeup. He had it. It's flashed in the past, but to get right-handed batters out. And then someone that was put on my radar by pitching savant we talk about on this podcast a lot, Isaac Groffman. You guys might see him on Worthy's YouTube channel. He's just a freak on Twitter, incredible pitching knowledge. He's going to work for a team someday. Noah Hall. He struck out 8 batters in 4 2/3 innings in the start last Thursday, and he struck out the last 5 batters he faced. And Isaac was telling me that Hall is a pronator, which means that we talk about supernators and pronators sometimes. Pronators release on the inside of the ball, which means they get a lot of arm side movement. I think the most notable pronator who's been really, really successful at the major league level is Luis Castillo, just with crazy two-seamer changeup movement, getting that arm side run there. So he's going to need to figure out some more off-speed pitches, but already having a two-seamer and a changeup that are nasty down there. So going to need to develop more to really get on the radar. Also doesn't throw especially hard. He's a low 90s guy, but again, someone to pay attention to. The Mets are definitely working with and helping develop quickly, which is nice.
Yeah. And also shout out our GOAT, Ryan Lambert, our boy, friend of the podcast, sitting 98, 4 strikeouts, 2 innings, no walks, no hits so far. Love Ryan Lambert. How many eggs? How many eggs? That's all I want to know.
30. And again, he's another guy that might move quickly because he's just gassing up 98 as a reliever in the minors. Like if we see Ryan Lambert in the majors, we made that deal. 6 raw eggs apiece. We're gonna somehow get those eggs into Citi Field. I don't know how that's going to happen. Maybe I get my media credential by then, but we're going to try and figure out how to get 18 eggs into Citi Field. His debut.
All right, let's talk about the last level here. Port St. Lucie, A-ball.
Some demons.
A lot of hitters on this A-ball squad. So I'm going to just start it off with the hitting here. AJ Ewing is the one that I feel like a lot of people are talking about on Twitter right now. He's been off to a scalding hot start. He had a 4-hit game the other day. He's hitting .429 in about 30 plate appearances this year. 2 doubles, a triple, 7 RBIs. He's walking a bunch, 5 walks, stealing bases as well. Seems like just a very pesky utility-ish player. He plays a bunch of different positions. The exit velos we have there, I think he got up to 106, you were telling me before. Mm-hmm. So you want to see a little bit hard, but again, he's a 20-year-old in PSL. Like there's still room for growth for high exit velos, but the fact that he's hitting the ball hard, hitting it consistently, getting on base, doing all these things, a great sign moving forward for a guy like AJ Ewing, who I believe was a draft pick that the Mets kind of gave over slot value because he was a high schooler and they took him away from a major, I believe, SEC school. So that's cool to see from AJ Ewing. Another one, this is a really exciting one too. Daverson Gutierrez, 19-year-old, former international prospect. He's hitting .375 in 17 plate appearances. They're all singles, but he's starting to get on catching people's radar in the baseball prospect world. He's 19 years old, showing a lot of really good bat-to-ball skills, stuff that you like to see from a young player like that.
Yeah, very nice to see from a young player like that. And again, this St. Lucie team, this is where you guys really will start to see the amazing depth that this Mets organization is forming, especially because we have data on these guys. We're going to be able to talk about pitch movement. We're going to talk about exit velocity. It's very cool to see a lot of the development happening down there. I also think, before we go back some hitters, I think the biggest story that's come out of Port St. Lucie so far this season is Matt Allen making his triumphant return after years, 3 or 4 arm surgeries, to actually get back on the mound at St. Lucie and look legitimately good in his debut, where he only went 2 2/3 innings, but he struck out 5. He only walked 1, 2 hits, no earned runs. Got up to 97 miles an hour in his fastball, which after all of the trials and tribulations that Matthew Allen has gone through, after all of the arm surgeries, all the time off, for him to come back in his first professional appearance in season and get to 97, over 90 miles an hour in his cutter, mixing some slow curves. Like, it's, 1, remarkable that he's come back and been able to do this. 2, remarkable that the stuff is actually still good. He could be someone that mixes in possibly to get a shot at the major league level at some point in his life. If he ever did that, it would be a tremendous story, long way to go. But the fact that the stuff is trending already in the right direction is just sensational. I'm literally just so happy for him because I know how hard these works to get back and rehab and all this stuff.
It has been over 2,000 days since he made his last start up before the one in St. Lucie. The last time he made a start was in 2019, which is insane to say out loud. He had not pitched in this decade, and the Mets drafted him all the way back in 2019 in the third round out of high school. So, yeah, great story. Hope to see a lot of good things from Matt Allen. Just honestly incredible that one, he's still stuck around that long to not pitch and still wanting to have it. Dog, absolute dog. Two, the Mets clearly see there is some sort of value here in a guy like Matt Allen, that they kept him along this ride, like for this insane ride of battling injuries, because they're like, we believe in you. That's got to feel kind of sick as a player as well, being like, holy shit, I haven't thrown a pitch in a game in 2,000 days, and this organization is like, yeah, you're not going anywhere. We're keeping you around.
I mean, think about this, guys. He hasn't pitched in a professional game for the Mets organization since Brody Van Wagenen was the general manager of this team. Like, that's how long it's been. It was years before Steve Cohen bought the Mets. That's how long it's been since Matt Allen did it. The fact that he's stuck around through all of this.
I was in college.
Yeah, look, right? God, yeah, you were in college. It was before the pandemic. We hadn't even lived together yet. This podcast didn't even exist yet before last time Matt Allen threw a pitch at the professional level, just to get a sense. There's two other pitchers I definitely want to highlight before I start to get to the demons, the data demons on here. Will Watson and Nate Dome, two of last year's draftees. This is another word from Isaac that he says that this year Will Watson will be the Jonah Tong of the system. He'll be the riser. He'll be the guy that kind of explodes, pops up, and gets onto the prospect list. Drafted him out of USC, Southern California, not your USC mark last year.
The real USC.
7 strikeouts, no hits, and no walks in 4 innings in his season debut, which is ridiculous. Another one of these guys with this low release point, flat approach angle fastball is going to live in the top of the zone. Even got over 20 IVB with a few of those fastballs in his first start. Has a 2-seamer with also some lift that juts the other way that plays off, which is really cool. He's got a hard cutter with tons of hop, again, similar to the one we're seeing from Kranick, but like Kranick's more tight slidery, where I think Watson's more of a true cutter. Also has a hard slider that goes off that. The cutter is a good bridge between that slider and that fastball. He had a sweeper out of the draft, but I think the Mets may have tightened that up, or maybe that slider will get more sweeperish just as it goes on. Change up too, it's a work in progress. He's someone that has a lot of good things going for him. Just crazy. I'm not even going to say he's physical tools because he's not a really big, imposing guy, but just incredible pitch specs from someone that the Mets seemingly kind of stole in the draft in the mid-rounds, that they really just like the data and they're really coaxing a lot of good stuff out of him.
Yeah, and watching his mechanics too on the videos from Twitter, I like that the Mets he has very simple wind-up delivery. Like, he doesn't even do the wind-up. He kind of does like what you see now, which is the abbreviated wind-up out of the stretch. He just kind of grabs the ball and his arm flies.
It's a whip.
Very whippy, which is something that we know is like super... You can get some crazy shit when your arm starts whipping like that through the zone. So love to see that from Will Watson. Again, the Mets have some demons down here, and I know that Nate Dome's a guy that you've had circled for a while, so tell the people a little bit about him too.
Super excited for him at the draft last year. Also, he filled the Mets Mississippi State Bulldogs quota because Mets have to draft a player from Mississippi State every year. Shout out Jank Mangum, finally getting a shot, playing well in the Rays, but not the best couple starts results-wise for Dome, but this is also the first time he's going back to the rotation full-time because he was a reliever for most of college. A lot of times he's dealt with some injuries, and he was able to get near 100 miles an hour pitching out of the bullpen. So again, I think for him right now, it's about finding the consistency with his delivery, with his velocity, his arm strength, where everything's going to be. Because also he was hurt at the end of last year, only through 29 innings for Mississippi State before the Mets drafted him. And the command is still iffy. Another reason he was pitching out of relief in college, but I think this is something the Mets really just see a wide arsenal guy with big stuff, and they want to make him a starter. It might take a little while, might take a little longer than a guy like Santucci, again, who is a little bit closer, not to a finished product, but to a major league pitcher, which is why Dome is down here in St. Lucie and Santucci's up there in Brooklyn, the advancement of his stuff. But crazy solid fastball shape with IVB 18, 19 inches, getting over 20 inches with almost 7 feet of extension. Kind of been getting hip to how important extension is. Talking to Nick Pollock a lot recently, where 6.5 feet is average. So Nate Dome being someone that has touched 99 miles an hour, again, as a reliever, so it's going to be back down to mid-90s, but getting with that with 7 feet of extension is crazy. I think he doesn't really understand, though, where his physical limitations are, because he's had some crazy velocity oscillations. Again, third time, going from relief to starter full-time this year. Like, he's had some 91s, he's had some 95s, and everything in between. So I think it's just about learning about where his body can be pushed to as a starting pitcher, but that's going to come with time. It's also getting kind of a blend of his cutter and his slider. He had a really nasty slider in college that I think is being referred to as a curveball right now by Baseball Savant, with some just freaky two-plane movement where it's like a lot of side to side and a lot of drop on it. But again, it's like kind of a situation right now where it seems like he's just not getting very good consistency and movement in these pitches. I think this is the hardest he's pushed himself in years, as he's been a reliever for most of his college time. So I'm really looking for consistency. I'm really looking to see where those pitch shapes wind up. But even though the results are poor, definitely encouraged by Nate Dome as he started his professional career with the Mets.
All right, is it time to talk about one of the demons here?
I mean, go through the rest of the hitters, then we'll do some demons.
Okay. I'll go through the rest of the hitters here. Jeremy Rodriguez and Marco Vargas playing really well. Rodriguez is still 18 years old at the time of this.
Shout out Tommy Pham.
Shout out Tommy Pham. Shout out Billy Epler. Great trade for Billy Epler. I know the guy gets a lot of crap, and it's fair. I understand it. But shout out Billy Epler for this one, because Jeremy Rodriguez hitting 300 at Port St. Lucie. He's walking a ton. Like, he's looking really good. I think he had a 108. He hit a ball the other day, which is really awesome for a guy who's a little bit smaller as well, like Jeremy Rodriguez. And Marco Vargas sitting 417. Shout out Billy Epler for that one, too. Was that David Robertson?
That was David Robertson, yeah. So Tommy Pham and David Robertson got us these two little demons that are still down there at Port St. Lucie, young, tons of potential.
Yeah, Drew Gilbert's doing his rehab nicely down there. He's playing pretty good. I think he's a guy you're going to see at AAA very soon once he's done with his rehab assignments. And Colin Houck, we haven't talked about him a lot. He'd been a first-round pick that had been very disappointing for this team. He still is striking out a ton, but he is making better contact with the ball right now in the small sample size that we've seen thus far, a few doubles early on in the season. He's a big, strong dude, but the swing and miss stuff is scary, so it's something to keep an eye out for as we move forward on in the season.
Yeah, no, that's also fair. Like, these are kids, so they're going to struggle. Like, these are literally children, half of them that we're talking about. Not all of them, but a few of them. But so it's important to take the good with the bad. Also, because I know we might get yelled at for this. If anyone out there is friendly with Nick Roselli, he is playing with Brooklyn. Hasn't been a hot week, but I still like Nick Roselli a lot as a player. I know he's a local kid, went to Binghamton, so I'm sure
people
he has
love
some
Nick
friends.
Roselli,
yeah, possibly some family that listens to this podcast. So we're not going to not mention Nick Roselli. Shout out Nick Roselli. And now we got some pitching demons down single A who I definitely want to shout out. A couple of these got put on my radar by Isaac. Again, shout him out. Guys, follow him on Twitter, Isaac Rothman. He's a pitching savant. First one I got to talk about is someone I texted you about the other day because I saw this stuff and I was like, I can't wait to talk about this guy and look more deeply into him. Ramon Gomez, a 23-year-old, which is a bit old down in St. Lucie, but he was reliever, became a starter. We signed him 2021 with basically no bonus out of Venezuela. He was in the DSL for a while, was coming to start full-time in 2023, got Tommy John surgery, almost missed 2 entire seasons because that was the beginning of 2023 season, didn't pitch at all in 24. He's back right now, and he's throwing 100 miles an hour. He touched 102. He's sitting 98. That's what's almost 7 feet of extension, so the 100 feels probably like 104, 105 to these hitters. In terms of arm talent in the Mets system, he might have the most. He's got a nasty 88-mile-an-hour slider that works off that fastball, which is just crazy velocity for a pitch that moves that much. Definitely doesn't know where that slider's going half the time. But again, he's seems like kind of learning how his arm works again after not pitching for 2 years and getting Tommy John surgery. Has shown a change in the past, hasn't shown it yet this season at Port St. Lucie, but seems like the Mets are gung-ho to develop him as a starter. And it's funny that he's already been in Brooklyn, but now he's back in PSL. But I just think it's almost like kind of like a rehab assignment for him. I think that he's someone that if things click, he could get to AA by midseason. And he's the stuff demon that comes out of the Mets pitching lab this season.
Yeah, Jacob Resnick actually talked about him back in 2022. I have a tweet. Shout out Jacob Resnick, Mets prospect legend, of course. And it was a video of him blowing by 98 against Jason Dominguez when he was 20 years old, Ramon Gomez. So he has electric stuff. And apparently he touched 103 in spring training. I mean, with an arm like that.
7 feet of extension. Yeah,
it's legitimately unfair. And I've seen some videos of him just throwing bullpens and stuff like that too. The ball zips out of his hands. It's like, oh my God, that's fast. Like, he's a big dude too. So like these are all really cool things to be seeing. And for Ramon Gomez, it's really nice to also have him in Port St. Lucie for this episode because we get these numbers on this guy. Because like there might be demons honestly at AA, and we don't know about it just yet because we can't see those numbers. But a guy like Ramon Gomez, we won't miss him when we got the numbers like this. Again, you touch a 102 and you got that nasty slider, we're gonna talk about you.
Totally. And it's really fun. It was fun to prep for this and set up a savant leaderboard where I can go pitch by pitch for every single pitcher in the Mets system and see their horizontal movement, see their induced vertical break, see how hard they're throwing, see their release point, see their extension. The Mets have a dude, Chandler Marsh, down there in St. Lucie, who's releasing the ball over Georgia, 6.5 feet. Yeah, really? Over 6.5 feet above his head with just a bowling ball sinker. That's crazy. Like seeing this stuff.
Ramon Gomez, by the way, Baseball America officially put him on their list of 10 prospect pitchers that they're keeping an eye out for.
Hell yeah, that's a great thing. But it's fun to see the data on these guys. I hope one day that we get this minor league data through every player in the system, because then these prospect episodes will be 2 hours long. But also, before I get to my last three demons, I want to shout out. We should mention the fact that Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez are playing with St. Lucie this weekend.
Prospects, a
little old to be prospects, but prospects none the same. We saw Alvarez hit a 108-mile-an-hour single in his first first game with St. Lucie, and got a nice little knob watch, a special knob watch from our guy Jordan Simpson, Mets Music. Jeff McNeil's using a torpedo bat down there. So I think that a lot more than probably should has been made of the torpedo bats over the last week, the first week of the Major League season. Probably got a little more shine than they should have. But a guy like Jeff, who's now looking to pull the ball, get that inside pitch a little bit more. I love seeing that torpedo bat from him. This would be fun.
By the way, Starling Marte got torpedo bats. He posted them on Instagram today. He's got torpedo bats ready for Sacramento.
Clean up hitter Starling Marte with his torpedo bats. We love that. But all right, I got 3 demons now. You ready for some demons?
Yes, I'm ready for them. Hit me, because I've watched some videos on these guys, so I'm excited to see what you have to say about them.
Yeah, Wellington Aracena. This is probably the craziest fastball shape that the Mets have in the minor leagues right now, because it's a 98-mile-an-hour fastball with natural cut and some rise. People talk about the cut rise fastball a lot. When I say cut rise fastball, that just means it moves a bit to the glove side. So it's cutting in as a right-handed pitcher on left-handed batters, which is just kind of a nutty pitch that they can have and pull out against those guys. Topped out over 100 miles an hour, and he's picked up 5 or 6 ticks of velocity since the 2023 season. So he's someone that, when we talk about the pitching lab, seems like he beefed up, got in that lab, and kind of figured out this arm slot and has gotten tons of more life on this pitch. Also, the way that his pitches are tracked, it looks like that he has a ridiculous color. That got a 60 grade on Fangraphs in their prospect update for the Mets last season. They comped him lightly and loosely, Eric Longenhagen, to guys like Camilo Doval and Emmanuel Clase for what he's able to do with side-to-side movement in his fastball and his cutter. It's just a stuff monster who needs some refinement, has a big looping curveball as well. He's going to play the whole season at 20 years old. Someone that looks like could be, I'm not going to say a household name, of course, but someone that we can be talking about a lot over the next year. Someone who I don't know if he's going to start yet. Probably winds up more as reliever because the stuff is so crazy. I don't know how he ever wrangles it for a 5-6 inning sample, but it's just someone that, if you hear a smart guy like Eric Longenhagen, who's been in the prospect game for a very long time, comp a 20-year-old reliever to Camille Doval and Emmanuel Clase, that's some legitimate juice right there. And Wellington Aracena has it.
Another shout out to Jacob Bresnick. He posted about him a couple years ago when the Mets signed him as an international free agent. And our boy TJ Stats had him as a standout StatCast favorite so far in A-ball this year for the New York Mets. All right, give us your other demons. What else you got?
All right, this might be the craziest one we got. Christopher Gomez. 11 strikeouts and 1 walk so far in 5 innings with St. Lucie this season, which is ridiculous. It's only a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, but he is 6'5", 220, and he has 7 1/4 feet of extension with legitimate lift on that pitch. So that 94 probably feels like almost 100 miles an hour when it comes into these guys, and is missing tons of bats. With a huge sweeper, too, it's also missing tons of bats. And the last guy, just wanted to find another guy throwing 100 miles an hour, Wilson Lopez. 100 miles an hour down there at St. Lucie. Same with another sinker baller, Juan Arnaud, who's getting up to 98, 99 with a sinker, but with only 5.5 feet of extension, which is a shockingly low amount of extension. But as a sinker baller, maybe that plays a little better than a 4-seam fastball. But again, we've got some demons at Port St. Lucie this season. It's a very exciting pitching staff down there.
In case you guys didn't know, we like guys who throw hard. That's something that people don't hit velocity well. You throw hard, there's a very good chance you're just going to be a major leaguer at some point. So we're going to keep bringing up these guys. They might not be able to throw strikes. They might not have anything else, but you throw 100 miles an hour, you're on the Messed Up podcast radar. That's for sure.
Yes, and what a fun prospect report. I love doing these. And also one more guy.
40 minutes for you guys on prospects.
Right? Just got this guy DM'd to me twice by Isaac and a friend of the podcast, Jack Bennett. Frank Ellisalt, who just had
he's been mentioned before.
Yeah, just had an 80 grade fastball in his, I think it was first appearance of the year, 95 miles an hour with 6.5 feet of extension and 18 inches of inverted vertical break with a 2-seamer that played off it. So it looks like, again, just lots of demons we got down there right now.
Pitching lab, Eric Yeagers. There's a reason we weren't ever allowed to talk about this guy. They had to keep him under lock and key. They don't want anyone to find out about his witch powers that he has along with Jeremy Hefner. So, yeah, the Mets pitching stuff. Again, this is why they didn't trade for pitching prospects all those years ago, because it was like, we could develop pitching like it's no problem, it seems like. We will make them out of thin air. Hitting, that's where we needed the help. That's where our true weakness was, funny enough. But these are all good things. And again, we're going to keep you guys posted on prospect reports maybe every couple of weeks on the podcast here as a third episode for the week. So make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, Mets'd Up Podcast, if you have not yet done so. Big shout out to our members. You're getting this episode early, getting $2.99 a month if you want to do that. completely optional, but you get episodes early. If the Discord will be in the description, Discord's popping, go join over there. Follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We do appreciate it. Download, subscribe, leave a review on the podcast. We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking about what's going on over here. And you can follow James everywhere on. What do you got for me, James? Hold on.
Drew Gilbert just hit another home run at Port St. Lucie on the rehab assignment.
Get him to Syracuse.
Nice. Get him up there. But yeah, follow YouTube and Twitter. James Shiano. Been doing 2 fantasy baseball videos a week. Been doing great. Just put up my buy low video. Featured Jacob deGrom because I think the guy's still everything we ever want him to be and possibly more. So check me out on there.
Yeah, and you can follow me, Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll catch you all on the next episode after the A's series. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets.